Hey guys, this is Justin at Incept AI. I just returned from the MURTEC 2025 conference in Las Vegas, and rather than create a long LinkedIn post, I thought I would share my perspective on the state of voice AI in restaurant tech, having just come out of this conference. I think when you go to a trade show, it gives you an opportunity to see a lot of things at once. You get to see various different solution providers. You get to go to sessions where folks are talking about using different technologies. You get to have a lot of conversations in just a really compressed amount of time. And I think this can help with providing a unique snapshot that's useful for folks to consume or consider. Maybe that's a better word. So the first takeaway that I want to share about the state of voice AI is that voice AI is really hot right now in the restaurant tech space. It was thematic throughout the conference. I went to a session on automation where Leon Davian at Dave's Hot Chicken talked about how they were testing voice AI. I went to a session on personalization where a panelist was talking about some of the virtues of voice AI to help create a more personalized guest experience. There was a solution provider that produced a sponsored track at the conference highlighting some different use cases for voice AI that I heard was well received. And even in keynotes and in some of the closing sessions, there were multiple mentions of voice AI. So I just really heard it as like a theme throughout the conference. And my take on that is it's actually not really surprising because voice AI underpins the broadest use case of generative AI in the restaurant space, which is customer service. So whether it's taking an order at a drive-thru over the phone, like what we're doing here at Incept, taking restaurant reservations, or even just helping a guest with hours of operation or helping them find directions to your restaurant, there are lots of different use cases for voice AI in this space. And of course, with the explosion of Gen AI in general, and with so many applicable use cases with restaurants, that's of course going to attract solution providers and entrants into the space. And so my second takeaway is that it's just getting noisy around this topic. There were a couple incumbent solution providers that were there. SoundHound had a pretty big presence. Presto was at the show. Voicify, I think, had a couple of people that were there. I didn't see anyone from Converse Now or Hayato. They might have had someone there. Incept AI, we were part of the Startup Alley experience. And just a quick sidebar, but I highly recommend to you if you are a tech founder and you have a solution in restaurant tech, definitely apply to be part of the 2026 Startup Alley cohort at the MURTEC conference. It's a great opportunity to meet with customers, prospective customers, partners, and just kind of a way to build your profile in the industry. So hats off to both Tammy and Abby for producing an exceptional Startup Alley experience and making that opportunity available to startups. But anyway, my point about noisiness was that in the 2025 Startup Alley cohort, there were 4 companies that were focused on voice AI. So Incept AI was there. There was a company called Vox. There's one called Forever. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Of One was there. Lilac Labs wasn't there, but they had a couple people that were kind of walking through. And the reason I think why we're seeing so many new entrants is because foundation models like GPT-4o, Gemini, Claude, Llama 3, etc. have become good enough that it's relatively easy to set up what I will call like a wrapper kind of solution where you can basically put together some pretty basic guardrailing and you kind of just have the foundation model do its thing. And from my perspective, that's interesting in the fact that capabilities can rise overall because foundation models are getting better, but also it means that if you really want to differentiate, you have to do something beyond foundation models and you have to do something beyond guardrailing foundation models. I believe that you've got to have some real hard tech that can close the last mile between where you can get with foundation models and where you can get to handling as close to 100% of guest interactions as possible. I'm obviously super biased here at Incept, but our sort of special thing that we're doing is more on the audio side, whether it's like denoising, echo, speaker selection, and handling a lot of different audio related problems. These are problems that are not well suited to be handled by foundation models today. And audio quality is a huge issue in restaurant order taking, whether you're on the phone or even more so if you're taking orders in the drive-thru. So I think as we progress throughout 2025 into 2026, obviously foundation models are going to continue to get better, but the players that are really able to make the most traction are going to be those that can really solve that last mile piece of the problem. Again, biased, but that's just my take on that. I did want to share something that was interesting that I've observed with a couple of the larger chains that are testing and even in some cases rolling out voice AI, which is how important is it really to make sure that you're processing 100% of guest interactions using AI if you're looking at this technology from any type of labor savings or labor optimization point of view. I'm not going to name the names of the brands, but there are two that are basically rolling out solutions that I know are not able to surpass anywhere between 80 to 82% of guest orders. And I think that's really interesting. There's sort of an interplay here in both of these rollouts where voice AI is viewed more as an augmenter of staff rather than the labor replacement type of a solution. And it's really going to be interesting to see if the price point of deploying that technology really makes sense on a broad scale. I definitely am more of the worldview that you have to be as accurate as possible. So it is interesting to see that there are some brands that are rolling out with solutions that don't necessarily rely on human in the loop, but are not at that 95 to 97% accuracy level. So for me, that's something that I'm going to look at really closely over the course of the next year to see how those deployments go, see if they pull back, see how scalable they really are, because again, in my view, accuracy is actually really important. And then I think my last takeaway that I want to share with regard to voice AI is you don't just need to have differentiated technology, but you really have to have super strong relationships. At the end of the day, the restaurant industry is a relationship-driven industry, and with increasing levels of noise and with voice AI becoming more thematic throughout the industry as a whole, it's going to be critical for buyers of this technology to distinguish what's real and what's just like an LLM wrapper type of a solution. And the way I think that buyers are going to get that is going to be through the people that they already know and trust. So I had some really great conversations, had a great dinner on the last night with a prospective customer, and it just really, some of our advisors were at the show, and it just really reinforced to me that at the end of the day, you have to build strong relationships in this industry if you're going to be successful. So those are my thoughts on current state of voice AI tech. Would love to hear any comments that you might have. Again, thought this would be a little bit better than doing a long LinkedIn post. I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.